Close your eyes and let your mind wander. Tonight, we're drifting into the gentle world of Pokémon, not through battles or competitions, but through quiet stories and hidden histories, the kind whispered by old stones and forest winds. This isn't the journey of a champion, but of a dreamer walking softly through time across regions, myths, and memories. Let's begin at the very beginning, not of the games, but of the world itself. Long before humans and Pokemon lived in harmony, long before Pokeballs and gyms, there was Arceus, the original one. In the void before existence, Arceus hatched from an egg in complete nothingness. With 1,000 arms, metaphors perhaps, for infinite power, Arceus shaped the universe. From it came Dialga, who brought time into motion, and Palkia, who stretched space into being. But even with time and space, there was no balance. So Arceus created Giratina, a being of antimatter, too wild and unstable to remain in the real world. Giratina was banished to the distortion world, a realm where physics folds and reality breathes in reverse. There, it watches still, not with malice, but with curiosity, waiting for the day it's remembered without fear. Once the pillars of existence were in place, Arceus created Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, beings of knowledge, emotion, and willpower. These three formed the foundation of consciousness. They drifted over a still young earth, their presence gifting thought to life. In the calm lakes of Sinnoh, they sleep to this day, embodying the soul of every thinking being. If you've ever felt an impossible decision, a surge of courage, or a spark of understanding, perhaps they were near. The world was vast and wild, but not yet full of life. That came with the weather trio, Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza. Kyogre formed the seas, so letting them swell and crash with tidal force. Groudon carved the continents, raising jagged mountains and endless plains, but they warred. As rain met magma, the skies turned black and storms raged without end. It was Rayquaza, the dragon of the heavens, who descended from the ozone and calmed their fury. To this day, Rayquaza remains in the sky, far above our view, circling a world it once saved in silence. In Hoenn's mythology, there's a tale that when Kyogre weeps, the oceans rise, and when Groudon dreams, volcanoes awaken. But they do not weep or dream often. The world has aged, and with it, the old gods have grown quiet. From the primal world came nature's caretakers. Xerneas, the embodiment of life, wandered forests and valleys, leaving trails of vibrant growth. Wherever it walked, flowers bloomed and illness faded. But when its time ended, it turned into a tree, a symbol that life and death are not enemies, but partners. Yveltal, on the other hand, represents destruction. When it stretches its wings, life drains from the land, and in the balance between these two forces rests Zygarde, sleeping beneath Kalos, guarding the ecosystem itself. It watches for imbalance, and if nature is pushed too far, Zygarde awakens, not to punish, but to reset. In ancient times, long before Pokeballs, the Pokemon and people lived differently. In Hisui, the old name for Sinnoh, humans feared Pokemon. The creatures were wild, unpredictable. They weren't companions, they were storms, beasts, spirits. The people who lived in Jubilife and the surrounding villages spoke of noble Pokemon, revered guardians touched by strange energy called frenzy. These frenzies weren't evil, they were nature's alarm, calling attention to imbalance. When these Pokemon raged, it took a gentle hand, not brute force, to calm them. The clans of Hisui, Diamond and Pearl, didn't worship Pokemon exactly, but honored them. The Diamond Clan believed time was sacred and revered Dialga. The Pearl Clan believed space was essential and honored Palkia. They argued as people do, but not with violence. Instead, they waited for understanding. The Galaxy Team, ancestors of the modern day Pokemon League, brought change. They brought Pokeballs, tools, and science, and with them came a new idea: partnership. The wild became familiar, but not without struggle. Let's turn our attention to another origin, the beginnings of the Pokemon League itself. In Kanto, it began with four powerful trainers, the Elite Four, who tested those who sought greatness, but even they answered to the champion, the one person who stood above all. But did you know that the Indigo Plateau, the site of the League, was once a battleground? Long before it housed victory and fame, it was the site of a great conflict between humans and wild Pokemon. The plateau was chosen not for its beauty, but for its peace, a peace won after hardship. Every battle there echoes an older, quieter truth, that strength must serve something more than pride. In Johto, lore takes a different shape, the shape of towers. The Brass Tower and Bell Tower, once twin spires of reverence, stood as symbols of balance. The Brass Tower was destroyed by fire, and from its ashes, 3 Pokemon were reborn: Entei, born of the fire itself; Raikou, of the lightning that struck during the blaze; and Suicune, of the rain that ended it. These were not ordinary Pokemon. They were reincarnations, given life by Ho-Oh, the rainbow-winged phoenix who watches from above. The burned tower still stands in ruins, a reminder that tragedy can give rise to guardians, and that even destruction can be a kind of beginning. Suicune is said to purify water by merely walking across it. Travelers in Johto say that if you leave a bowl of spring water out under a full moon, Suicune may visit, and in the morning the water will shimmer, clear, and blessed. It's just a story, of course, but stories, in Pokemon, often hide seeds of truth. Meanwhile, in Unova, the stories are grander, more human. 2 brothers, one who sought truth, the other ideals, once shared a single dragon Pokemon. But when they quarreled, the dragon split. From its body came Zekrom, the dragon of ideals, and Reshiram, the dragon of truth. Their war tore the region apart, but when neither could win, they vanished. The third form, Kyurem, was left behind, a hollow shell, incomplete, frozen. It waits still in a cavern of ice, a reminder that balance broken often leaves emptiness behind. There are tales that when Zekrom flies, thunder follows, not as sound, but as emotion, a pulse of belief so strong it shakes the air. Reshiram, on the other hand, burns not with heat, but with honesty. Those who stand before it cannot lie, even to themselves. As we drift further into the past, let's visit Alola, where Pokemon are not just partners, they are family. The Tapu, Koko, Lele, Bulu, and Fini are guardian deities who protect the islands. But they're not always kind. Tapu Koko, for instance, delights in battle and may judge trainers not on strength, but on spirit. Each Tapu embodies an island's soul, and in return, the people of Alola don't just train Pokemon, they celebrate them through dances, offerings, and quiet respect. The Alolan people believe that when a Pokemon passes away, its spirit drifts to the peak of Mount Lanakila, where it becomes a star. If you look up on a clear night, you might see a new light in the sky and wonder, was that an old companion watching you from above? Let us pause here beneath the stars, where myths sleep and memories walk beside us. There's more to tell of gods and ghosts, champions and caretakers, lands of ice and oceans of light. But for now, let the wind rustle the grass of Pallet Town. Let the waves gently lap against Kyanwood's shore, and let your thoughts drift with the clouds above Sutopolis. Let's continue now, gently and slowly, where we left off, floating like a leaf on the breeze, across regions and memories. The world of Pokemon is not only one of adventure and excitement, but also of stillness and wonder, of deep myths nestled under soft moss and in the hearts of forgotten places. Our next steps take us to lands touched by both the ancient and the celestial. In Sinnoh, the mythologies are layered like sediment. Beneath every hill and within every cave, there are whispers of the divine. The spear pillar, perched atop Mount Coronet, is said to be the very axis of the Pokemon world, where time and space intersect. Long before Team Galactic sought to control those forces, the ancient Sinnoh people believed this mountaintop was a gateway between worlds. They carved symbols into the stone, symbols of balance, worship, and awe. Standing at its peak, you can feel the weight of ages pressing gently down. Below Sinnoh's surface lies Turnback Cave, a swirling realm said to be Giratina's door, a passage to the distortion world where up becomes down and echoes ripple in silence. But Turnback Cave doesn't shout its mystery. It breathes it, faintly like a sigh from the void. There's no music, only your footsteps, and if you stand still, the cave watches back. Meanwhile, Kanalov City houses a quiet treasure, the Kanalov Library. It's one of the few places in any region dedicated to storytelling and history. Among the dusty tomes and old books, one tale speaks of a Pokemon that shaped the universe, and another of a man who turned a Pokemon to stone with a curse. These aren't gameplay mechanics. Those are campfire stories told by elders, passed down like lullabies. In a world where Pokemon are everywhere, it's easy to forget they were once, and still are, the stuff of legend. Across the sea, in Galar, the concept of legends is woven directly into daily life. From the very beginning, people there have told of two heroes, a pair who once stood against an all-consuming darkness. Some tales say it was a single human wielding a sword and shield. Others speak of two Pokemon, Zacian and Zamazenta, regal and powerful. In truth, both are true. These Pokemon slumbered for centuries, mistaken as myth. Only when the darkest day threatened to rise again did they reawaken. The darkest day wasn't just a storm. It was an event of unnatural energy caused by Eternatus, a dragon of endless power that crashed into Galar from space. Its core, called the Power Spot, continues to fuel Dynamaxing, the phenomenon where Pokemon grow gigantic in battle. But there's a quiet undertone to that power. Dynamax energy comes from Eternatus, and Eternatus is not dead. It slumbers beneath the region, wrapped in containment, its heartbeat slow but steady. The energy that powers stadiums also hums like a distant growl. Yet for all its power, Galar is a region of harmony. The wild area, with its roaming Pokemon and changing weather, is one of the few places where the world feels untamed again, where Pokemon are not reduced to stats or levels, but exist simply because they do. Watching a group of Wooloo roll across a grassy hill or seeing a Gyarados leap from a lake during a storm reminds you that this world is still very much alive. In Kalos, the lore turns somber. Long ago, a war erupted, a war so devastating that one man, known only as Azit, build a weapon to end it. This weapon, powered by the lives of countless Pokemon, brought peace, but at an unbearable cost. Azid used it to revive his beloved partner Pokemon, Floette, who had died in the conflict, but she returned changed, not in body, in spirit. She couldn't forgive what had been done, and she left him. Az, towering and ageless, wanders the region still, his heart heavy with eternity. His story is a quiet one, tucked into the postgame, but it echoes with depth. It's a reminder that even in a world of wonder, there is sorrow, that love, twisted by grief, can leave scars that no time can heal, and that forgiveness sometimes is the hardest journey of all. Let's walk a little farther now, to Oris, a land unlike the others. A dry, sun-baked region where wild Pokemon are scarce and Pokeballs are relics of a forgotten time. In Ori, the story shifts. Here, shadow Pokemon exist, Pokemon whose hearts have been artificially sealed, turning them into emotionless fighters. Created by Cypher, a criminal organization, shadow Pokemon represent what happens when the bond between humans and Pokemon is severed, but hope remains. Wes and later Michael work to purify these Pokemon to bring back their hearts. The process isn't instant. It takes care, patience, and trust. And when a shadow Pokemon finally opens its heart again, it doesn't just return to normal. It shines, it glows, it remembers. Ori's story may be more mechanical, but its heart is the same. The Pokemon are not tools. They are companions and they feel. We can't forget Unknown, the mysterious glyph-like Pokemon shaped like letters, found mostly in ruins, like those of ruins of Alph in Johto, or the Selacion ruins in Sinnoh. Unknown don't evolve. They don't battle well. They're not even particularly expressive. But they communicate, so each one represents a letter or symbol, and together they form messages. Hidden, puzzling, ancient. Some believe they predate written language. Others think they are language, literal ideas given shape. In Pokemon 3, the movie, the Unknown actually create a dream world based on a child's imagination. They don't speak, but they understand, and that might be even more powerful. Across all regions, mythical Pokemon, the rarest, often event exclusive, carry stories that feel like modern fairy tales. Jirachi, for instance, awakens for only 7 days every 1,000 years. During that time, it can grant wishes written on notes. It's inspired by the Tanabata Festival in Japan, where people write dreams on paper and hang them from bamboo. Jirachi doesn't always understand what it grants, but it tries, and there's something gently beautiful about that. Then there's Darkrai, often misunderstood as a bringer of nightmares. But in truth, Darkrai doesn't cause them intentionally. Its very presence triggers dreams, sometimes dark ones, a side effect of its power. It often isolates itself to avoid harming others. In Canalave City, a sailor's child lies trapped in an endless nightmare until the player seeks out Darkrai and brings resolution. And in that moment, we understand. Even the so-called dark Pokemon seek peace. Manaphy and Phione, born of the sea, are said to connect with all Pokemon. Shaman, a tiny hedgehog-like Pokemon, purifies air and flowers. Meloetta, through song, stirs emotions hidden in even the coldest hearts. And Victini, the victory Pokemon, is said to bring victory to any trainer who bonds with it, not because it battles better, but because it believes in them. Let's rest now in a soft field under a full moon, where Clefairy once danced, and where Ilex Forest's leaves rustle with unseen life. The lore of Pokemon doesn't shout, it hums, it lingers, it cradles. It invites you not just to play, but to feel, and as you drift further into sleep, you carry with you not just facts, but stories of guardians, of grief, of hope. As we drift further into the dream, the world of Pokemon begins to feel less like a game and more like a living storybook, one that's written not in ink, but in moments, places, and the quiet emotions tucked between each step on a journey. Tonight, the pages we turn will take us through more forgotten tales and sacred places where time moves a little slower and memories linger just a little longer. Let us begin in the ruins of Alf in Johto, a site shrouded in mystery, older than any modern city in the region. These stone chambers are home to the unknown, but the ruins themselves tell a story all their own. Carvings on the walls depict ancient humans standing side by side with Pokemon, suggesting that the bond between species has existed long before the invention of Pokeballs. Some researchers believe the unknown may have shaped human language itself, or perhaps they merely reflect it. The deeper implication is never stated, only suggested, and so the ruins remain quiet, patient, watching. Traveling east to Ecruteak City, we find the sacred bell tower, said to be the resting place of Ho-Oh, the legendary rainbow Pokemon. It's a place of reverence, of incense and soft bells, where monks train in silence and birds circle overhead. Legend says Ho-Oh only appears to those with pure hearts, and its feathers shimmer in every color of light. In contrast, the burned tower, once its twin, is a ruin, scorched wood and silent shadows. And yet from its ashes rose the beasts of Johto, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, Pokemon born from disaster, who now wander the land not with vengeance, but with solemn duty. Each of the beasts carries symbolism. Raikou, lightning, represents the strike that ignited the tower, Entei, fire, the flame that consumed it, and Suicune, water, the rain that quelled the destruction. They are not just elemental forces, they are witnesses to the cycle of ruin and rebirth. It's said Suicune can walk across lakes, purifying them with each step. Entei's roar echoes like a volcano's heart, and Raikou, when it moves, splits the skyset, but none seek to conquer. They simply roam, guardians without thrones. Far to the south lies Mount Silver, the most remote and quietly intimidating peak in Kanto. Trainers speak of it with respect, not because of danger, but because of solitude. The mountain is a place of final trials, where few dare to go. It is here, atop the snow-laced summit, that Red waits, silent, contemplative, a trainer who speaks no words. He doesn't need to. His presence is enough. Red is the embodiment of the journey itself. He is not a rival, not a boss, but a reflection of your own path. And when you battle him, it's not just for victory, it's for closure. In Alola, the lore flows more gently. The region itself is inspired by tropical beauty and community. Here, Pokemon are not caught, they are greeted, they are welcomed. In Pony Island, ancient ruins dedicated to each Tapu remain scattered across the land, overgrown but respected. People leave offerings, berries, shells, driftwood, not out of fear, but appreciation. The island challenge, unlike traditional gyms, is less about dominance and more about growth. It's a ritual that mirrors the evolution of the self. And at its peak, in Mount Lanakila, the Alolan Pokemon League rests where snow kisses lava, a contradiction that somehow feels peaceful. Stories in Alola tell of Solgaleo and Lunala, beings who traverse ultra space. These aren't just strong Pokemon, they are literal bridges between dimensions. Solgaleo, the emissary of the sun, opens gateways to new worlds with its radiant mane. Lunala, the moon's shadow, floats between light and dream. Together, they serve Necrozma, a being of pure light that once brought illumination to all dimensions. But when that light was stolen, Necrozma fractured, becoming the blinding one, feared and misunderstood. And yet, the path to healing wasn't through battle alone, it was through understanding, reuniting the pieces of light, returning what was lost. In Galar, the old kingdom of the crowned tundra holds legends that read like bedtime tales. Long ago, a king rode a steed, Glastrier the ice horse, or Spectrier the ghostly mare, depending on the telling. But the true heart of the story is Calyrex, the king of bountiful harvests. Once revered, Calyrex could speak directly to humans through psychic projection, guiding crops and bringing prosperity. But over centuries, belief faded, statues crumbled, worship became myth. When the player encounters Calyrex, it's not angry, it's lonely. The king of old doesn't seek to rule again, it only wishes to be remembered. This theme of memory of forgotten gods echoes again in Sinnoh, particularly in the hidden caves where Regigigas sleeps. This colossus, the master of the Regi-Titans, was said to have towed continents into place with ropes, but it was sealed away, its strength feared. Regigigas can only be awakened if its children, Regis, Registeel, Regirock, and in later tales, Regieleki and Regidrago, are brought together. Even then, it stirs slowly, like a mountain remembering how to breathe. Its chamber is silent, not ominous, reverent. The world held its breath as it slept, and still holds it now. Among all the tales, perhaps the most curious is that of Mew, the supposed ancestor of all Pokémon. Said to contain the DNA of every species, Mew is elusive and playful, often invisible, watching from the trees. Its mythology is less about power and more about potential, the ability to become anything, to adapt, evolve, and remember. Mewtwo, its clone, represents humanity's attempt to control nature, a being made not from kindness, but ambition. And yet, Mewtwo, in its solitude, learns compassion. It questions its origin, seeks its purpose, and, in time, chooses empathy. Both Pokemon are halves of the same story, one born of nature, the other of science. Both searching for peace, and then there's Celebi, the forest guardian, a time traveler said to appear during moments of harmony, not to interfere but to witness. In Ilex Forest, they say that if you sit quietly long enough, you may feel a warm breeze, hear the rustling of unseen leaves, and know that Celebi has passed by. In times of crisis, it returns, not to fight, but to mend what has been broken. Where Celebi walks, the flowers bloom in its footprints, not out of magic, but memory. So many Pokemon are tied not just to myth, but to emotion. Latios and Latias, bonded siblings, protect Altamare with silent vigilance. Cresselia guards the realm of good dreams, while Darkrai, so often feared, simply cannot help what it is. And then there are stories, yet unwritten, the strange, dreamy world of Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, where Pokémon speak, cry, laugh, and remember a world where they were once human. These stories don't compete for attention. They don't demand answers. They sit quietly in the corners of caves, behind waterfalls, or nestled in the hearts of those who remember. As you drift deeper into rest, the world of Pokémon stretches on, not with noise or fanfare, but with a soft glow. As we drift further through the fog of dreams and legends, the Pokémon world becomes more like a tapestry than a map, a fabric woven from ancient stories, quiet ruins, and soft, persistent memories. Not all Pokemon are divine, not all stories heroic. Some are quiet, tucked away in ordinary places, waiting for someone to notice them, to remember them, and tonight that someone is you. Let us begin in the cold expanse of the Sinnoh underground, a labyrinth of caves and tunnels beneath the surface. Once used for mining and exploration, these passageways have become something like living history. Fossils lie hidden in the walls, traces of Anorith, Lilip, and Kabuto, Pokemon from a time before Pokeballs, before trainers, before even people. Some believe these creatures were among the first to walk the earth, and that the process of reviving them from fossils is not so much science, but ritual, an act of remembering. In the darkness, under the surface, the past never truly dies, it simply waits. Elsewhere in Sinnoh lies Amity Square, a small, peaceful park where trainers are allowed to walk with their Pokemon. It seems simple, a place for joy, but hidden within the square are old stone ruins, slowly crumbling. Who built them? No one knows for certain. They resemble the architecture found near Celestic Town, a village that still honors the old legends. The people there speak of a time when Pokemon and humans didn't merely live alongside each other, they were the same, partners not just in battle, but in soul. There are tales of children being born with strange powers, gifts from Pokemon ancestors, and in those stones, maybe, are the remnants of those forgotten bonds. In the misty woods of Unova, Zoroark is said to create illusions so powerful entire forests appear to shift. But Zoroark doesn't deceive out of cruelty. It does so to protect. Its illusions serve as defense, a soft refusal to be found. In Lost Lorn Forest, travelers speak of hearing whispers in unfamiliar voices, or seeing flashes of people who aren't really there. These aren't ghosts, they're memories, crafted by Zoroark to keep its den safe. The forest bends not just in shape, but in feeling, a dream within a dream. And in those dreams, we find Cresselia, the lunar Pokemon. On nights when the moon is full and soft, it is said Cresselia glides silently over the ocean, leaving trails of shimmering moonlight. Those lucky enough to see it are said to be blessed with joyful dreams. In Canalav, sailors speak of waking from nightmares to find a gentle feather on their pillow, a lunar wing. Cresselia does not fight for fame. It watches over the peace of sleep itself. And in this world we share tonight, it feels closer than ever. Let us travel now to Hoenn, where the seas are as sacred as the sky. In the sky pillar, atop a trembling tower surrounded by the whisper of wind, sleeps Rayquaza, the dragon of the ozone. Rayquaza's tale is one of balance. When Groudon and Kyogre clashed, Rayquaza descended not with rage, but with calm authority, restoring order. It represents the sky, not as a force of thunder, but as a bridge between earth and sea, between storm and silence. Even in sleep, it watches. And in the tower that reaches skyward, its legend is carved into every step. Further south, the sealed chamber tells another story, one not of dragons or gods, but of puzzles and silence. Here lies the origin of the Regipokemon. Regirock, Regis, and Registeel were sealed away in ancient times, not out of fear, but out of respect. Their powers were too vast, too mysterious. The language etched into the walls is Braille, one of the few real-world languages used directly in the Pokemon world. Players must translate the dots themselves, a rare moment of real-world thinking blending with in-game myth. The process of unlocking the Regis isn't just gameplay, it's a rite, a test of patience and wisdom and trust. Among the quieter legendaries, we find Phione, often misunderstood as a lesser form of Manaphy. Phione is born from Manaphy, but cannot evolve back. It drifts across the ocean, playful and unnoticed, like a drop of dew returning to the sea. It doesn't battle often, it doesn't make headlines, but it exists, gently, patiently, and in that there's beauty. And in the warm air of Alola, that softness continues. The Ultra Beasts, with their alien appearances and strange behaviors, are not evil, they are displaced. Nihilego, the jellyfish like parasite, behaves oddly not because it's malicious, but because it doesn't understand this world. When one world collides with another, there's confusion. That confusion is the heart of the Ether Foundation's story, a tale of love and control, of wanting to protect but not knowing how. Lusamine, the Foundation's leader, is not a villain in the traditional sense. She's a mother afraid of losing what she loves, grasping too tightly, and in her obsession, she forgets the very thing Pokemon teach best: trust. Let's pause for a moment in Pallet Town, a place of beginnings. Not because it's grand, but because it's quiet. A small house, a professor's lab, and a dusty road that stretches toward Viridian. It was here that Red, Ash, and countless players began their journeys, not with power, but with choice. The choice between Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, between adventure and comfort, between staying and stepping forward. Pallet Town may be small, but in every sense that matters, it is infinite. Near Lavender Town, the soft music changes, not because of ghosts, but because of memory. The Pokemon Tower isn't scary, it's sacred. It holds graves, but also love. It's a place to remember the Pokemon we've lost. In battle, in time, in story, players often speak of that one Pokemon they released by accident, or the partner that carried them through their first league, long since overwritten or lost. Lavender Town reminds us they mattered, still do, and there's a story not told in any game, but shared by fans. It says that on clear nights, you can still hear the cry of a Pokemon you once knew, faint but unmistakable. A reminder that even in a digital world, connection is real. Let's rest here for a little while longer. The moon is high, the wind gentle, and the world of Pokemon wraps softly around us. These stories aren't loud, they don't need to be. They're tucked between blades of grass, whispered in the rustle of leaves, carried by the wings of a Pidgey overhead. The night deepens, and as you settle in, the world of Pokemon continues to unfold like a dream. Every corner of every region holds stories that have been passed down, half forgotten, or waiting quietly to be noticed again. These aren't tales of high stakes battles or championship titles, but of sacred trees, slumbering guardians, and the soft places where the lines between reality and myth blur gently, like fog across a meadow. Let us begin with the Tree of Beginning, a crystalline ancient formation hidden deep within the land near Kanto. Said to be alive, the tree functions almost like a living nervous system, pulsing with light and emotion. It recognizes friend from foe by aura, that invisible energy that flows through all living beings. Here, Lucario plays a central role, not just as a fighter, but as a companion of deep sensitivity. Lucario can read the aura of others, their feelings, their intentions. In ancient times, aura was treated as a form of communication deeper than words, a silent link between hearts. Some say that Lucario was once a guardian, not just of kings, but of balance, protecting not with power, but with perception. And within the same realm of aura, comes the story of Serene, a knight who sacrificed himself to calm a war, entrusting his Lucario with the last of his energy. It is said that in the final moment before the great tree sealed itself in silence, Lucario's aura merged with the world around it, like a whisper that never fully fades. Some who visit the base of the tree say they can still feel warmth there, a gentle hum, as if the tree remembers. From the ancient to the artificial, we move to Silphco in Saffron City, a towering hub of technology. Behind its polished walls and innovation lies a deeper story, the quiet arms race of Pokeball development. The Master Ball, capable of capturing any Pokemon without fail, was never meant for the public. It was born of desperation, a need to contain something too powerful for normal means. Some whisper that it was built in fear of Mewtwo. Others say it was meant for deities. Regardless of its intent, its creation marked a turning point in history. The line between trainer and god had become just a press of a button. Contrast that with Kurt, the humble Pokeball crafter of Azalea Town. He uses apricorns, natural materials shaped by hand and tradition. Each apricorn ball has unique properties: a fast ball for the swift, a friend ball for the kind. These are not manufactured, they are grown, carved, and given. It's a reminder that even in a world of machines, the old ways still hold meaning. And sometimes, catching a Pokemon with care means more than catching it with force. In Johto, there is a shrine in the Ilex forest, barely visible under vines and dappled sunlight. This is the shrine of the Forest Guardian, dedicated to Celebi. Legends say that if you offer it a gift, a leaf, a berry, a whispered wish, Celebi might appear from the past or future to bless the forest once more. The shrine doesn't draw crowds. There are no signs, no trainers battling, just stillness. And in that stillness, you can almost hear time itself holding its breath. There's something similar in Floaroma Town in Sinnoh, where endless fields of flowers bloom year-round. According to legend, the town was once a barren hill, dry and cracked, but a traveler, with the help of a grateful shaman, sowed seeds and song into the soil. The land responded, and now flowers stretch to the horizon, pinks and golds and blues that sway gently in the breeze. The air smells sweet, and even the most restless Pokemon seem to slow their steps here. Shaman, the gratitude Pokemon, is said to visit once a year, unseen, leaving trails of blooming petals behind it. Further west, in Unova, sits N's castle, a hidden fortress that rises from the earth like a forgotten palace. It was once the domain of Team Plasma, but also a home for a boy who believed that Pokemon should never be used in battle. Anne, raised in isolation, could hear the voices of Pokemon, not in speech, but in feeling. He saw Pokeballs as cages, trainers as captors, and while misguided, his heart was gentle. The castle itself is a contradiction, filled with grandeur, but shaped by loneliness. When it rises from the ground during the climax of Black and White, it's not a threat, it's a memory, a secret, long buried. N's journey, like so many in the Pokemon world, is not one of victory, but of understanding. High in the sky, across regions, drifts Altaria, a Pokemon said to sing melodies that lull people and Pokemon alike into deep, dreamless sleep. Its wings, soft and cloud-like, pulse with warmth. There are tales of flocks of Altaria singing together before a rainstorm, their harmonies calming even the most frenzied of wild Pokemon. In some villages, It's believed that hearing an Alteria's song in the evening guarantees peaceful dreams. They say the clouds sound like that, if only you knew how to listen. Let's pause in Kianwood City, a coastal town where the waves never stop rolling in. Here, trainers leave messages in bottles, casting them into the sea. Some are letters to Pokémon that have passed, some are hopes for future adventures, a few wash up in distant places. One tale speaks of a bottle that reached Pacifidlog Town in Hwin, carried by currents, read by a child who would later become a gym leader. The oceans, like Pokémon, connect us in ways we can't always see. Speaking of the sea, in the depths beneath the surface lies Relicanth, a Pokémon that has barely changed for millions of years. Its body tells the story of survival, not through evolution, but through endurance. It swims slowly, carefully, in the darkest trenches, and yet it plays a crucial role in unlocking the secrets of the Regis in Hoenn. It's the kind of Pokemon people overlook. Not flashy, not powerful, but quietly essential. A living fossil, a witness. In snowy Snow Point Temple, hidden beyond icy winds, lies Regigigas, the colossus who once moved continents. To awaken it, trainers must bring together all three original Regis, a symbolic reunion. When Regigigas stirs, the temple groans as if the mountain itself is waking, and yet, when you meet it, it does not strike. It watches, slowly, deliberately. It is not anger that drives Regigigas, but purpose. It doesn't forget. It waits for a world that still needs it. Let's rest now, for just a moment more. Imagine the gentle hum of Magnemite drifting through a quiet power plant, the rustle of leaves in Eterna Forest, the soft footsteps echoing in Victory Road. These places may not be grand to all, but to those who remember, they are sacred. The world outside your window is still, and the world within this dream drifts ever deeper into its quiet wonders. The Pokemon universe is not bound by the rules of our own. It stretches on like a lullaby that never quite ends, filled with silent mountains, glowing lakes, and ancient voices that hum through stone. Tonight, we float onward through more legends, gently unfolding the pages of forgotten regions and soft mysteries. Let's begin in Sinnoh, but beneath it, in a realm few ever truly see. Below the Pokemon world lies the Distortion world, home of Giratina, the renegade Pokemon. This place isn't governed by gravity or time. Water flows upward, platforms float without reason. The sky, if it can be called that, pulses like a heartbeat. Giratina was banished here by Arceus for its violent nature, but it is not truly evil, just misunderstood. Its world reflects that. A mirror where reality is a little broken, a little dreamlike. Giratina watches, moves silently, and only intervenes when balance in the upper world begins to unravel. Some say it lives between seconds, in the slivers of time we never notice, a guardian not of order, but of the consequences of chaos. Nearby in spirit, if not in space, is Arceus, the alpha Pokemon. The creator. Said to have emerged from a cosmic egg before time itself, Arceus shaped the universe and brought forth Dialga, time, Palkia, space, and Giratina, antimatter. But Arceus doesn't dwell in temples or towers. Instead, it's connected to a place called the Hall of Origin, a silent platform high above Spear Pillar, accessible only by a special flute. There, above the clouds, with nothing but wind and sky, Arceus waits. It doesn't speak. It doesn't attack unless provoked. Its presence alone is overwhelming, not from aggression, but from the sheer meaning it holds. Down on the ground again, we walk into Eterna Forest, where time feels slower and moss carpets the world. This forest is home to a Pokémon named Mismagius, known for whispering dreams and nightmares into the minds of the sleeping. It's not malicious, more like mischievous. The forest is also where you may encounter Moss Rock, a stone that causes Eevee to evolve into Leafeon. No explanation, just nature. When you're near it, the air feels different, heavier, greener, alive. There's no ceremony, no flash of light. Evolution, in this case, is like a leaf turning in the wind. In Alola, the guardians of the land are the Tapu, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, and Tapu Fini. Each one represents a different island, a different domain. They are tricksters and protectors, wild and ancient, and they choose when to intervene. When Necrozma threatens the light, it is the Tapu who appear first, not humans, not even legendaries from other regions. In Hawaiian lore, the spirits of land and water are sacred, and the Tapu are a reflection of that belief. They're not deities in the same way as Arceus or Dialga. They are local, proud, personal, and they are not to be disrespected. In a quieter corner of Alola lies Pony Island, where ruins sit cradled by cliffs. It is here that Hapu, a young girl with a strong spirit, becomes Kahuna, not because of age or strength, but because of connection. She proves herself not through battle, but through heart. The island accepts her, and so do the Tapu. It's a story not of destiny, but of belonging, and in a world full of chosen ones and prophecies, that makes it all the more meaningful. Let's drift now to Kalos, where elegance meets myth. Beneath the beautiful boulevards of Lumiose City, in the darkest corners, whispers speak of Azid, the immortal king. Over 3,000 years old, he wanders with slow steps, carrying the weight of his past. He once built a machine to bring his partner Pokémon back to life, and it worked, but at a cost. That machine became a weapon. Entire kingdoms fell in a moment. Azid didn't celebrate. He grieved, and his partner, Floette, left him, not out of anger, but heartbreak. His story is one of love, twisted by desperation. And in the end, when Floette returns, it's not because he's a king, but because he's changed. In Anastar City, a massive sundial rises from the ground, glowing faintly with cosmic energy. This sundial is tied to Mega Evolution, a temporary transformation that pushes Pokémon beyond their limits. But Mega Evolution isn't something that every trainer can use. It requires deep trust, a bond that resonates. The sundial responds only to that kind of connection. When the sun hits it just right, light scatters like shards of possibility. And in those moments, time feels like it pauses, as if watching the world hold its breath. Back in Johto, the tales are older, softer. Lake of Rage, once a peaceful place, became known for the sudden appearance of a red Gyarados, a Pokémon whose strange color sparked curiosity across regions. But the real story lies beneath the surface, of Team Rocket, of experiments, of trying to control what cannot be controlled. The lake turned red not from fury, but from interference. When you defeat the red Gyarados, it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like a rescue. Just south lies Dragon's Den, a hidden temple beneath Blackthorn City. This is where dragon-type Pokémon are revered, not just for strength, but for their wisdom and age. The elders who live here speak in proverbs. To train here is not about winning. It's about listening, about understanding what it means to carry the legacy of dragons, creatures older than the Pokédex, with memories stretching back to the first fires and storms. Some dragons, like Altaria, hum lullabies. Others, like Hydreigon, are born into chaos, evolving from a quiet, blind Dano into a multi-headed whirlwind of emotion. And then there is Gudra, gentle, slimy, loyal, a dragon that cries when left alone. Not all legends roar, some simply want to be held. Let's visit Sinnoh again for a final whisper tonight. The story of Cynthia, champion and scholar. She's not just a powerful trainer, she's a bridge between eras. She studies myths, walks ruins, and speaks softly to children about the stories behind the stones. Her partner, Garchomp, isn't just a powerhouse, it's a friend. Cynthia reminds us that strength and kindness can exist side by side, that knowing the old stories makes us better, gentler, stronger. As you lie there, warm and still, picture the glow of campfires from the past, in villages like Celestic, in the forests of Johto, in the deserts of Unova. Picture children listening with wide eyes to elders telling stories of birds that carry lightning, of flowers that dream, of towers that reach the sky. The Pokemon world is not a place you simply play through. It's a place you return to, a place that remembers you. The night continues gently, and the path winds onward through quiet regions and hushed memories. In the Pokemon world, every step feels like it's touching something ancient, something alive. There are stories that hide in the mountains, whispers in the forests, and reflections in the water that linger longer than they should. Each region is like a dream retold in a different voice, with the same gentle heartbeat running underneath. Let us travel to Unova, a land steeped in human history as much as Pokemon myth. Long before the time of trainers and gyms, two brothers ruled a single kingdom. They were said to have been guided by a dragon, a single mighty Pokemon that embodied both truth and ideals. But when the brothers began to disagree, the dragon split into two: Reshiram, who burned with the fire of truth, and Zekrom, who sparked with the lightning of ideals. Their conflict was not of good versus evil, but of two different paths, both valid, both fierce. Their battle tore the kingdom apart, and in the end, the original dragon, Kyurem, the empty shell left behind, remained cold, incomplete, waiting. Kyurem slumbers in the giant chasm, surrounded by frozen earth and silence. It doesn't attack unless provoked, but there is sadness in its presence. It is the embodiment of something unfinished, and when you see it, you can feel it, that quiet yearning to be whole again, not to rule, not to fight, but to be remembered as it once was. Elsewhere in Unova lies the desert resort, and within it the relic castle. Buried in sand and time, this ancient ruin speaks of a civilization lost. Deep inside is where Volcarona resides, a Pokemon sometimes called the sun's replacement. Long ago, during a volcanic winter, when ash blocked the sky and the world grew cold, it is said that Volcarona's flames lit the land. People worshipped it not just as a Pokemon, but as a savior. Even now, when you descend into its chamber, the sand grows warmer, the light grows softer. It doesn't rise to attack. It simply waits, coiled in its chamber of memory. To the east, in Lacunosa town, people live under an unspoken fear of the night. Old tales tell of a monster who appears in the darkness, a frozen creature who steals warmth and never speaks. That creature, of course, is Kyurem, and the town's high walls and early bedtimes are remnants of a time when the line between legend and reality was thin. It's a story that feels like a bedtime myth, until you realize that not far away, Kyurem still lingers. Across the sea in Hoenn, the oceans tell stories of their own. There is Pacific Log Town, a village built entirely on floating rafts. The people there live with the sea, not against it. They speak of the sealed chamber, the site where the puzzle of the Reggie Pokemon begins. But further west, hidden in the trench of Route 134, lies the story of a Pokemon that few ever meet, Jirachi, the Wish Granter. It is said that Jirachi only awakens for 7 days every 1,000 years, and during that time it can hear any wish whispered with a pure heart. Its third eye opens only in moments of sincerity, and when it sleeps again, it drifts through space and time like a star waiting to fall. Some say that when a child makes a wish on a shooting star in the Pokemon world, it's Jirachi who hears it, not to change fate, but to listen. And sometimes being heard is the magic. In Kanto, there are more grounded myths, quieter, but no less powerful. Near Cerulean Cave, tucked away at the end of a treacherous path, resides Mewtwo, born not of nature but of experiment. It was created in a lab using the DNA of Mew, the supposed ancestor of all Pokemon. But Mewtwo is not simply a clone. It is a being forced into existence, given immense power without a choice. Its isolation is not by accident. It hides because it's searching for purpose, for peace, for something to make it feel whole. Despite its strength, Mewtwo doesn't destroy unless provoked. It meditates. It watches. And if approached with kindness, it doesn't flee. It listens. There's something heartbreaking about it. A creature designed for battle, yearning for stillness. And then there's Mew, playful and mysterious. Unlike its clone, Mew doesn't hide out of pain. It hides out of joy. It flickers in and out of sight, teasing, giggling, leaving behind glimmer of presence like dust caught in sunbeams. Mew represents what Pokemon truly are at their heart, mysterious and so joyful and deeply connected to the natural world. Back in Johto, another hidden Pokemon waits quietly, Smeargle, a normal type with a painter's tail. It seems unassuming, and yet it holds an ability no other Pokemon does. It can copy any move with Sketch. In the art world of Pokemon, Smeargle is a symbol of memory, of creativity, of adapting to anything. There are tales of flocks of Smeargle painting murals on cave walls, ancient and new, telling stories through color instead of sound. Some trainers swear that Smeargle can remember moves long after the battle is over, like a notebook that never forgets. Let us not forget the strange corners of the world, places that don't appear on every map, like the Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island, half burned and crumbling. Inside are journal entries, vague, cryptic, about experiments and discoveries. It is here that Mewtwo was first mentioned, but the mansion is quiet now. Only echoes remain, and sometimes echoes are louder than words. Or the old chateau in Eterna Forest, where ghosts drift through empty halls and Rodham flickers through appliances. The paintings seem to watch. The doors creak at odd hours, and a sense of being followed never quite fades. But even here there is no threat, just the memory of life that once filled these rooms. Some ghosts linger not to haunt, but to stay close to places they loved. Finally, let us rest in Little Root Town, the smallest of beginnings in Hoenn. Here a child wakes up, puts on running shoes, and steps into tall grass for the first time. The sun is rising, and everything is possible. Little Root isn't remembered because of grandeur. It's remembered because of the feeling, that first breath of adventure, that first Pokemon chosen, that first step into the world. And in a way, that's what all of this has been. Not just a story, but a remembering of where we started and where we've gone. As your eyes grow heavier and the night wraps around you like a familiar melody, we continue our quiet drift through the world of Pokémon. A world where forgotten legends slumber in the shadows of trees, where even the smallest village might be the birthplace of a myth, and where Pokemon and people have always been connected, not just through training and battle, but through stories, silence, and time. Let's begin with a Pokemon that rarely draws attention, yet carries deep mystery. Spiritomb, found sealed within the hallowed tower. It's formed from 108 malevolent spirits, bound together by an ancient spell. The tower itself is modest, just a crumbling pile of rocks in the middle of nowhere. But when an odd keystone is placed within, something shifts. Spiritomb appears, not with anger, but with eerie stillness. No one knows exactly why it was sealed, only that long ago it caused such chaos that people joined forces to imprison it using stone, magic, and time. Now it simply watches, bound not just by rock, but by memory. Nearby, in Sinnoh's Celestic town, an elderly woman tells tales of a time when humans and Pokemon were indistinguishable. The murals on the walls depict Dialga, Palkia, and Arceus, surrounded not by warriors, but by humble people offering flowers. The stories passed down here are not of battles or victories, but of balance, a balance that was once broken and slowly rebuilt. If you follow the rivers west of Celestic, you'll find yourself near Mount Coronet, the spine of the Sinnoh region. This mountain is not just a physical landmark, but a sacred divider between past and present. It is where time and space were first created, where the echoes of the gods still linger. At the summit stands Spear Pillar, the site of countless rituals, forgotten wars, and silent moments. It is here that players confront the power of the universe, face the divine, and it just as often simply stand in awe of the wind. In Galar, newer stories bloom. In the town of Stow-on-Side, cliffside graves overlook a vast desert. Here, ghost-type Pokemon dance among the stones. The gym leader, Alistair, is a child who hides his face and speaks softly, but his connection to the spirits is strong. He doesn't fear ghosts, he listens to them. In a world that often seeks to control or conquer, Alistair's power comes from stillness, from compassion, from acceptance of things we cannot see. Deep in Balanlea, the forests glow with bioluminescence. The paths are lined with mushrooms that shimmer in purples and blues. And it is here that Opal, a fairy-type expert, presides over a gym where trivia and whimsy are more important than brute force. The town itself feels timeless, like it slipped out of a fairy tale and chose not to go back. Some say that Impidimp and Grimmsnarl dance under the glowing trees, creating illusions that confuse travelers. But they don't mean harm, they're simply playful, and the forest always lets you out if you stop trying to control the path and start following the feeling. Back in Kanto, let us remember Lapras, the gentle sea creature once considered endangered. Early Pokedex entries mention that Lapras were hunted to near extinction because of their ability to carry people across water, but their numbers rebounded thanks to conservation and compassion. Now, in newer generations, the entries say they've grown in number again. Lapras didn't fight back, it waited, and the people learned. It's one of the few times in Pokemon history where the world got quieter and better through kindness. Not far from the seas where Lapras swim lies the Seafoam Islands, home to Articuno, the ice-type legendary bird. It doesn't rage like Zapdos or burn like Moltres. Articuno drifts through snowstorms, its wings creating blizzards that shimmer like silk. It doesn't often appear, but when it does, it's seen as a sign of transition, the end of a season, the beginning of something new. Some fishermen in Kanto believe that when Articuno is sighted, the ocean will calm for 7 days, a moment of peace mid-storm. In Johto, another bird rests atop the Tin Tower, once known as the Bell Tower. Ho. Ho, the rainbow Pokémon, is said to appear only to those with pure hearts. Long ago, it resurrected 3 Pokémon from the ashes of the Brass Tower, giving birth to Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Each of these beasts represents a piece of that tragedy: lightning, fire, and rain. But they don't dwell on loss. They run constantly. They are always in motion, never settling, always watching. Some say they're searching for the one who will reunite them with Ho-Oh. Others believe they are simply remembering by never stopping. And Ho-Oh, it still soars above the clouds, unseen. Its feathers shimmer with every color, and when they fall to the earth, they bring peace. Not power, just peace. Let's move now to the curious case of cast form, a small Pokemon from Hoenn that changes its form depending on the weather. On sunny days, it burns bright. When it rains, it becomes droplets. When the snow falls, it transforms into a swirling snowflake. It was created by scientists, but in the world of Pokemon, even artificial creations become something more. Cast form teaches that the world around us shapes us, and that's okay. Adapting doesn't mean losing who you are, it means growing with grace. Another Pokemon born of adaptation is Deoxys, a mysterious being from space. Its arrival in the Pokemon world wasn't with ceremony, but with a crash. It transformed depending on what it needed: speed, strength, defense, and it sparked questions across every region. Are Pokemon only of this world, or are they universal? Some believe that Deoxys is just one of many interstellar visitors, and that the stars above us are full of creatures who dream in ways we can't understand. But even among the stars, there are Pokemon who bring dreams directly to us. Darkrai, the pitch black phantom, walks through our sleep, causing nightmares not out of malice, but because that is its nature. It doesn't enjoy causing fear. It simply exists in that space between comfort and unease. And opposite it is Cresselia, who brings sweet dreams, guiding them like fireflies through the night. These 2 Pokemon are not enemies, they are balance. They are the inhale and exhale of sleep. Now, as the world grows quieter still, picture a scene: a lone trainer sitting on a cliff overlooking the sea, their Pokemon curled beside them. The wind is soft, the stars begin to shimmer, and far in the distance across the water, something glowing begins to rise. Not a threat, not a battle, just another wonder, another story waiting to be told. And you, listening now, are part of that story. As the night deepens and stillness fills the air, our dreamlike path through the Pokemon world continues. These aren't tales of fierce competition or grand finales. They're the quieter ones, the ones that live in whispers, in forgotten shrines, in the gentle hum of places most players pass by. Pokemon lore is stitched together by myths, feelings, and time, and tonight we drift through more of its warm, flickering pages. Let's begin where ancient power lies asleep, in Sinnoh's Snow Point Temple, buried beneath layers of frost and silence. This is the resting place of Regigigas, a Pokemon so powerful it's said to have moved continents with ropes. But when you arrive at the temple, there is no fanfare, No music, just echoing footsteps and stone that groans beneath your feet. To awaken Regigigas, you must bring the three other Regis, Regirock, Regis, and Registeel, almost like offering keys to a forgotten vault. When it stirs, the atmosphere shifts. It doesn't leap into battle. It pauses, as if surprised to see someone standing before it. In that moment, you understand. Regigigas doesn't want war. It wants remembrance. Across the sea, in the Unova region, there's a cave cloaked in shadow called Mistralton Cave. Inside waits Cobalion, one of the Swords of Justice. Along with Verishion, Terrakion, and Keldeo, they once protected Pokémon from human cruelty during times of war. Cobalion, in particular, is seen as a leader with a gaze that pierces but does not accuse. Their tale is not one of conquest, but of protection. They stood not for power, but for peace. And when they appear now, it's not to fight, it's to see if the world has grown kinder. Near Lentimus town, there's an old tale of Heatran, a creature born from magma, dwelling deep within Reversal Mountain. The mountain pulses with quiet heat, and some believe it breathes in rhythm with the earth. Heatran isn't elegant. Its body is jagged, its movements rough, but it's ancient, a leftover piece of the planet's molten past. It's not here for glory. It's here because this is where it belongs, in the fire, in the stillness, in the old places that remember how the world was born. In the quiet hills of Kalos, there is Parfum Palace, a grand golden estate with endless halls and statues. But the most haunting story isn't in its art, it's in its garden. A gardener there speaks of a furfrou that once lived at the palace, pampered and beloved. But after its owner passed away, it wandered the palace in sorrow, waiting to be groomed again. The story is small. It doesn't involve legendaries or disasters, just loss and how even Pokémon can grieve. In Alola, tucked away near Ula Ula Island, is Thrifty Megamart, an abandoned supermarket, overrun with ghost types. Once a place of laughter and sales, now it's filled with the gentle rustle of lost spirits. Among them is Mimikyu, a shy Pokémon that hides beneath a ragged Pikachu disguise, not because it wants to scare people, but because it longs to be loved. It saw how beloved Pikachu was and tried to emulate it. But underneath the disguise is something no one can quite understand. Some say those who peek beneath its cloth are overwhelmed by sorrow, not fear. Mimikyu's tale is not horror, it's heartbreak. Let's travel back to Hoenn, where Sky Pillar rises from the land like a jagged breath. At its summit, Rayquaza sleeps, the dragon who lives in the ozone layer, invisible to most. Long ago, when Kyogre and Groudon clashed in an earth-shaking feud, it was Rayquaza who descended, not to destroy, but to calm. It didn't pick sides. It brought silence. That's its true power, not its roar, but its ability to stop others from roaring. Rayquaza doesn't ask to be worshipped. It simply watches, and when the time comes, it acts. Beneath this ocean lies Seafloor Cavern, where Groudon and Kyogre once stirred. Their conflict wasn't of good versus evil. It was natural. Land expanding, sea rising. In Pokémon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, their primal forms reflect this ancient energy. But even here, where the stakes are high and the elements clash, there's a moment of peace. When Rayquaza descends, there's a brief hush, a breath, and then the storm subsides. Let's not forget the quieter Pokémon, the ones who don't appear in legend, but whose stories linger in unexpected places. Like Whismur, a small creature found in Hoenn's Rusturf Tunnel. It cries when it's scared, and its voice echoes through the stone. But when it feels safe, it hums softly. That's why the tunnel was named Rusturf, a blend of rustling wind and turf, a natural harmony. Trainers who pause there can sometimes hear Whismer humming in the dark, like a lullaby just for them. In Sinnoh's Amity Square, trainers are allowed to walk with their Pokémon, something rare in older generations. You'll find Happiny, Baneri, and Pachirisu frolicking without care. But there's a deeper meaning. It's one of the only places where Pokemon are seen not as partners in battle, but as companions. There's no pressure to fight here, just a path, some flowers, and time spent together. Sometimes, the simplest stories are the most important. And what of Unown? Those strange, alphabet like Pokemon scattered across ruins from Johto to Sinnoh. No one fully understands them. They don't evolve, they don't battle, but they appear near ancient texts, murals, and places where memory clings tightly. Some believe they are the language of the world made real, that they communicate not through sound, but presence, and when gathered, they alter reality slightly, not drastically, just enough to make you wonder, are we reading them, or are they reading us? As the stars move across the sky above you, know that Pokemon lore is filled not just with drama, but with quiet connections. The kind that don't demand attention, the kind that sit gently beside you and stay a while. The night is deep now, and the world is still. We've walked through forests that glow, towers that whisper, and caves where ancient Pokemon sleep in silence. We've listened to stories told not in battle cries, but in footsteps, murals, lullabies, and sighs. And yet, the Pokemon world continues, eternal, layered, filled with secrets that wait patiently in quiet corners. Let's begin this final chapter in Paldea, the newest region, a land of wide open spaces, mysterious pasts, and Pokemon that challenge the boundaries of time itself. At the heart of this mystery lies Area Zero, a crater deep within the region filled with wild energy and strange phenomena. Here, paradox Pokemon roam, creatures that appear to be echoes of the past or glimpses of the far future. There's Roaring Moon, a wild ancient form of Salamence, and Iron Valiant, a futuristic fusion that blurs the line between Gardevoir and Galad. These beings aren't just evolutions, they're questions. Questions about history, destiny, and the nature of memory itself. Area Zero isn't a battlefield, it's a place of wonder, a place where the past and future gently collide. Within the same crater, players find that time doesn't behave normally. There are reports of Pokemon evolving differently, of behaviors that don't match anything recorded in a Pokedex. Some researchers believe that Area Zero is a place where dreams and theories gain shape. It's not a glitch. It's an echo, a moment suspended where what could be becomes what is. In contrast, let's revisit something simpler, the story of Ditto, the soft, squishy Pokemon with a face like a smiley sticker and the ability to transform into anything. Ditto has no set form, no evolution, and no lore tied to battle or creation. And yet, it's one of the most mysterious Pokemon of all. In some circles, people wonder if Ditto is a failed clone of Mew. Others see it as the ultimate expression of adaptability, a being that survives by becoming what the world needs. And maybe, in a way, that's what Pokemon is all about. Change, trust, and transformation. Let's drift now to a ship, specifically the SS Anne, docked in Vermilion City. Most players remember it for the early adventure, the rival battle, the view of the ocean. But there's a strange urban legend tied to it. After the ship leaves, the dock is empty, except for one patch of land behind a tree. People used to believe that if you could glitch your way to that patch, you'd find Mew waiting. It was never confirmed, but the idea persisted, a hidden Pokémon right in front of you, just out of reach. Not because it had to be real, but because it felt possible. And in Pokémon, possibility is sometimes more important than proof. In Johto, another rumor drifted through towns like smoke, the mystery of the GS Ball. This special Pokéball, introduced in the anime and certain events, was said to hold a secret Pokémon. Eventually, it led to the mythical Celebi, the time-traveling guardian of forests. Celebi's presence is always subtle, a sparkle in the trees, a ring of flowers blooming out of season. It doesn't change the world through power. It changes it through presence. When Celebi appears, time briefly bends, not with force, but with softness, as if history is catching its breath. In Unova, the dream world was introduced, a space where Pokémon dreams could be entered, explored, and gently influenced. Here, Pokémon like Munna and Musharna drifted through clouds of dream mist, bringing with them the emotions of those they touched. Musharna's mist can display images of what it's seen in dreams. Some scientists try to study it, others simply sit beside it, watching. Because dreams aren't meant to be decoded, they're meant to be felt. Further west in Kalos, in Kuriwe Town, an old man sits alone near the train station. He doesn't say much, just reflects on life, memories, and how things change. If you speak to him after becoming champion, he smiles gently and says, "I just remembered something. Of course, I'm not quite sure what it was." It's a quiet moment, no reward, no lore drop, but it lingers, because in a game filled with creatures and battles and noise, sometimes the softest things stay with us longest. In Galar, Zacian and Zamazenta are known as the legendary heroes. But they didn't ask to be remembered. They didn't build statues or tell their stories. Instead, they disappeared into the forest, letting people forget. Their tales were passed down through bedtime stories, paintings, and myths. When they return, it's not to reclaim power. It's to remind the world that strength doesn't need to roar. Sometimes it simply waits. And as the dawn begins to approach, we return to the one who began it all, the player, the child who steps out of their house in Pallet Town with a backpack, a hat, and a dream. No one told them what to expect. No one promised glory, just a partner at their side and a world waiting to be explored. That child lives in all of us, the one who still gets excited when the screen fades in, when the music starts, when the first step into tall grass feels like the first breath of possibility. Pokémon is more than a game. It's a place, a feeling, a dream that keeps changing shape, just like Ditto, but never loses its heart. Its stories are stitched with nostalgia, curiosity, and a kind of quiet magic that only grows stronger the more you return. So now, as you rest, let the world fade into that magic. Let the names, places, and melodies float gently through your thoughts like fireflies. The Pokémon world will always be here, waiting with soft light and gentle echoes whenever you wish to return. Sleep well, traveler.